beginning of March, and you know what that means. The new Spellbinders kits are here. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in today's video I'll be unboxing and using the Card Kit of the month, the Small Die of the month, the Glimmer Kit of the month, the Stitching Die of the month with the add-on, and the Embossing Folder of the month and the 3D Embossing Folder of the month. Now that's a lot of products and kits to get through, and there'll be lots of cards. So let's jump right in and take a look at the supplies that come in the Card Kit of the month. This year, the Spellbinders Card Kits of the month come in these awesome pouches that really help you keep everything in the card kit together. This kit has a bunch of beautiful pattern paper. There's a bunch of florals, some bees, plaids, lots of pinks and blues, yellows. It's a really great spring combination of pattern papers, and those are 6x6. These sequins are some of my favorite sequins ever. I just love that color. There are also puffy stickers with words and hearts, and you could use these on cards or even on scrapbook layouts. These puffy stickers are more like sentiments, or you could use them in pocket page scrapbooking, things like that. And there are chipboard stickers. I always love the chipboard stickers. They just have great designs, and I love that little bit of dimension that you get from using a chipboard sticker, and obviously that it's peel and stick is really handy as well. Of course, there's a supply list and some card ideas. The cardstock is cut down into A2 pieces. Here are the colors that you get this month: a lavender, a yellow, pink, green, blue, and they're really just beautiful colors, and they coordinate really nicely with the pattern papers. And here are the die cut shapes. I always love the die cut shapes, and I just have trouble sharing with you how many are in the pack. It is just a ton of die cuts. You get 2 of each image, and there are so many different images, from things like flowers to sentiments to just bees this month, rainbows, trees. There's so many options in there. Now let's use the Card Kit of the month to make a few cards. This is a quick and easy card kit, so everything can just kind of be put together. It all coordinates really well. So I have 2 pieces of pattern paper. I did cut the smaller one down quite a bit because I wanted to see that floral in the background. And then I am just going to adhere a bunch of these chipboard stickers. There's a beehive, 2 bees, a little sentiment that says "Be Beautiful." It just so quickly comes together. It's unbelievable. So if you have maybe a bunch of cards to make, or if you like to make a stash of cards all at once, these types of kits are really great for that because, like I said, everything coordinates together. I'm also going to use some of those little puffy hearts just for something different on the face of that card besides the chipboard stickers. And I love this card. It's so cute. Came together so quickly. I'm going to do something similar. I have 2 pieces of pattern paper, and then I have my die cuts out. I like to show a card with all the different things at least once in each card. So I'm going to use these puffy sticker sentiments, and I like that they're on a clear backing so that you can hold them over the card and see what works for you. So I just like to have the die cuts next to me in a big pile. I don't organize them. There are just so many. I feel like it would take me longer to organize them than to just kind of sift through them, but you do you. If you like to organize them into sentiments and then images, or large images, small images, whatever works for you. And then I'm going to pop them up. The kit does come with some of those pop dots, which I really, really like. They're kind of small, but they have a good amount of dimension to them. And once I'm done with all the die cuts and popping things up, I'm just going to adhere down some sequins to the card panel using some liquid glue. So I have my embellishment tool to pick up those sequins. I kind of sprinkled them around the card, and then I'm just using the liquid glue and my embellishment tool to place them and adhere them down. Again, I love this color of the sequins. I don't have anything like this, so I will definitely be using these again. This card ends up looking a little different than I actually created at first. So I'll share the photo of it again at the end. But I have 2 pieces of pattern paper. I popped up a die cut. I have the Remember puffy sticker at the top, and that's what changes. I end up taking that off and putting a few more of the die cuts on there, and I end up really liking it, how it turned out, but I didn't end up filming that part. So you'll just have to trust me when you look at the photo at the end that it turns out better than this. So I had some hearts, the puffy hearts. I love sprinkling those around, and there are a couple of chipboard hearts as well. So you can see on the right the photo of how it turns out. I have a butterfly die cut and a scallop die cut at the top, and I just really like the way that looked better. Next, let's take a look at the small die of the month and use that to make a card. The small die this month is a very detailed die, and it is what is used to create a symmetrical die. If you want to use it to create a symmetrical die, you can, a die cut. So you can cut it out twice, and then there are symmetrical elements that you can add to that die cut. So we have flowers that go in symmetrical arcs. We have a butterfly that is down the center, symmetrical on the left and the right, and it fits in that spot right there. So these are the dies that come with the small die of the month. There's also a sentiment that says just because, and the main die is so delicate that I recommend using a slightly thinner pound or weight of cardstock. I ended up using an 80-pound weight instead of the 100 or 110 that I generally use for die cutting, because I wanted it to cut really, really cleanly, and the 80-pound cut beautifully. So I have 2 of the same die cuts there, and they, like I said, they mirror image each other. So you can put the center on top of each other. There's a hole on the side that can overlap, so you know that it's in the right space. Now you can cover up those butterflies with different colors. I decided to use pattern papers from the card kit of the month. So I have 2 different pattern papers here that I think really pop off of that light pink with the white. And then I used the gorgeous Spellbinders mirror cardstock to cut out the butterfly body. So there'll be the sentiment in gold mirror and then the 2 butterfly bodies so that they're across the card with a little bit of gold. Now for those flowers, they are layering flowers. So you can see you cut the stem and the leaves out of green, and it has a place to hold the flowers that you cut out separately. So I just put a couple of dots of liquid adhesive and put the flowers on top, and then a couple of dots of adhesive on those flowers, and there are flower centers that you can cut as well. And yes, they're tiny, but they're easy to pick up with an embellishment tool, so you can easily put these together. And then you see they fit right on the wings of the butterfly. Is that not genius or what? I mean, designing dies like this, it must be so complicated. And then we all get to use the brilliant designs that these designers come up with. So I decided to use some of the open spaces of that delicate die cut, and I had a few more flower centers, so I popped them in there. I had a few extra flowers, so I put one on each side to cover up that overlap of the 2 dies. And then I decided to add some gold embellishments from Spellbinders. Again, I'm doing everything symmetrically, same on the left as on the right, to keep the whole pattern continuing from top to bottom. Now it's time to check out the stitching die of the month, as well as the die add-on to the stitching die, and make a card. Speaking of brilliant die designs, so this die is part of the stitching die. It cuts out those diamonds that have the large stitches. So you go from the center to the outside. They're very large stitches, so you get it done pretty quickly. It also has this background panel, cuts out the panel and all these little elements that are able to be backed with a lighter color of pattern paper to really show off that design. So I loved putting the dark blue over the light blue, and then I have a light blue for that centerpiece. And then this die cuts out these leaves that you can stitch right on top of the other elements. And I'll show you at the end how this all comes together. There's also this die that's for that centerpiece if you want to make that a different color as well, or if you wanted to stamp a sentiment on it, you could do that. So I am doing those large stitches. As I've mentioned, these are very easy to do. You're just going from the center to each of the holes outside in that diamond shape. It goes very quickly because the stitches are so large. I am not one for a lot of patience for tiny little stitches. That's not what this is. This is large stitches. They're very easy to follow around, and you quickly end up creating a stitch design that is very beautiful. So I'm going to adhere down that background to the light color of cardstock. I'm going to use liquid glue behind the stitched panel because there's so much thread in the back, and I also put tape to hold my stitches in place. Somehow I lost footage of stitching the leaves on, but you'll see when I lift up my hands that those leaves get stitched right on the outside of the diamonds, and it just pulls the whole thing together. I'm going to add that white piece in the center because I'm going to use the add-on die, which is a sentiment die. So there are dies that say thank, for, and you in that add-on, and I cut those out of gold mirror cardstock that said thank you, so I could put those on the center, and I think the white helps to be able to see those a little bit better. I used some of those flowers from the small die that we just covered. So I'm not going to explain them again, but basically they cut the leaves out of a greenish color, the flowers out of a yellow color, and the flower centers out of a white color, and adhered them together. And I'm just going to use them as embellishments on this stitching die. So just always know that there are going to be elements from different kit clubs that will work with other clubs, and often a lot of them work together really well. So the pattern paper can work with, the cardstock can work with the dies, can work with the stitching dies, can work with, all of those things can really work together. And I added a few silver embellishments just in the center of those stitching so you don't see those holes in the center. Next, let's take a look at the Glimmer Kit of the month and make a card. If you've seen me done hot foiling recently, you know I like to use pixie tape to hold that foil in place over the cardstock. This is one of the Glimmer plates this month. It is, again, a symmetrical design that you could do top and bottom. You could just do one if you want, but it will work together at the bottom of the card and at the top of an A2 card, and the second Glimmer plate will work in the center of those two. So I am going to use an A2 piece of cardstock, some gold foil, and I'm foiling the bottom of the card. When I peel that off, you can see that the tape really holds it in place so you get a great impression. I'm going to do this again, but this time I'm flipping it over, so I'm foiling on the other end of the card, and you'll see when I take it off exactly what I mean there. So both ends of the card are now foiled. There's plenty of room in the center for the other foil plate. You could just foil right on the card, but there's also a die that's included. So I foiled on some pink cardstock so that I could cut it out and add it to that card design. I also foiled the sentiment that says "so kind of you." So I'm going to cut out that centerpiece, and I'm going to cut out, there's also a little oval die to cut out the sentiment. The reason that these dies are so great to have is because then you can pop things up if you want. You can create them dimensional, you can create them layered, and you can create them in different colors. So I decided to add a little bit of ink blending to that major flower in the center of the foil design. The foiling acts as a resist, so it's still going to shine really beautifully. And now I'm going to adhere that centerpiece and just try and line it up in between the two designs that I foiled at the top and bottom. And then I'm going to pop up that sentiment that says "so kind of you" right in the center. I'm going to again add a few little gold gems this time from Spellbinders. I really like to add just a little bit of dimension and interest with these embellishments, and I think they really kind of pull the card together. So I'm trying to do them symmetrically as well, even though it was tough to find exactly where to place those teeny tiny ones. I do end up liking the look of that symmetrical design. Now let's take a look at the 3D embossing folder of the month and use it to make a card. I bought myself the universal plate system, and I'm so glad I did because these 3D embossing folders go through like a dream and they emboss perfectly with that system. So this is an adapter plate that you put on top, especially for those 3D embossing folders. And check this out. I didn't have to mist it or wet it or anything. And I've got a perfect design where you can see every single element of that beautiful design. I'm going to add, like I mentioned, the pattern paper works really well with other things. I think it works well with this design as well. So I'm going to put a little strip of pattern paper that I really liked from the card kit on the edge, and then I'm going to use a die cut, a chipboard sticker, and some of those puffy hearts to finish off this card. But really, it's the 3D embossing folder that shines here. Next up, let's take a look at the embossing folder of the month and make a card. So you don't need the universal plate system to use a regular embossing folder. You would just use the platforms and then one clear plate on top of the embossing folder with the cardstock inside. And even though this is not 3D, it looks pretty dimensional. So I love that bright yellow cardstock that came in the card kit. I'm going to use it on some of the blue cardstock that came in the card kit, and then I'm going to use some of the die cuts. So I have one heart put down flat to the card, and then the little sentiment popped up, the little hexagon popped up, the bee popped up. I have no idea why I'm working upside down. Literally no idea. I was like, did the camera flip that around? And then I see myself turn the card around and I couldn't believe it. So strange, but sometimes I just get in a groove and I don't even know where I am and what's going on. So I added a couple of those dark blue elements because I really love the blue with the yellow. And again, this came together so quickly, and that subtle background is perfect for a simple design. I don't know about you, but I am so in love with all of these spring vibes and happy products. I'd love to hear if something caught your eye this month. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. It's the first of the month. No, it's not the first of the month. It's the beginning of March, and you know that. You know that. It's not the first of the month. Please stop. Please stop. Never mind. I was making it way too difficult.